Tonight, day 38 of the government shutdown. The FAA reducing air travel nationwide, prompting hundreds of canceled flights at the nation's busiest airports.
It's an inconvenience for passengers, but it's bigger inconvenience for the people that are not getting paid.
The latest from Capitol Hill as the pressure for lawmakers grows. Plus, the U.S. military targets another alleged drug boat. Why some members of Congress are challenging the legality of the strikes. And safety in the sanctuary.
We don't want to walk in fear. We don't want to walk in a fleshly or carnal way. But at the same time, we want to be careful.
The unique ways churches are stepping up security measures. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. A stalemate on Capitol Hill as the longest shutdown in history sends shockwaves through the country. Good evening in Washington, I'm Jenna Browder. Well, hundreds of flights canceled and more than 1,000 delayed. The government shutdown is grounding Americans, turning airports into scenes of frustration with more travel chaos expected over the weekend. And as travelers struggle to reach their destinations, millions of families are facing uncertainty at home. Food assistance for 42 million Americans is now at the center of a heated legal battle. A federal judge has ordered the Trump administration to fully fund SNAP benefits by today, accusing officials of withholding help for political reasons. The White House firing back, asking an appeals court to block any court orders requiring it to spend more money than is available in a contingency fund. Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill, Republicans and Democrats continue locking horns despite new pressures to end the longest shutdown on record. For more on this, let's bring in our political panel, senior White House correspondent Kelly Wright and Dr. Gabriel Castro, an assistant professor at Cedarville University. Gentlemen, welcome. So Kelly, to you first, travelers, they are feeling the pain. Airlines will cancel hundreds of flights every day now at the FAA's direction in order to keep passengers safe. What is the White House saying about all of this tonight?
Well, Jenna, good evening to you. Again, it goes back to the president putting all the blame on the Democrats. And you'll recall that about 4 weeks ago, I was in the Oval Office with the president along with a group of other reporters. I asked him at that time, in the early stages of the government shutdown, what about the pain that the American people will feel? And at that time, he said the American people were not feeling any pain. And he basically wanted to say, hang in there. And as we've discussed before, Jenna, hanging in there is becoming quite a problem right now for so many air travelers and so many air traffic controllers who are worried about showing up to their jobs, not being able to afford health care or even care for their children. So many of them are calling out sick or even taking to driving Uber to make up for the loss of expenses. And for the air traffic people who are actually trying to get to work, there's also the question of a safety issue. Now, the Trump administration, President Trump says it's not a safety issue right now. Transportation Secretary Scott Duffy is concerned about the mental acuity and the stress levels that many of these air traffic controllers have concern with, and that's why they're cutting down the number of flights that are flying. Well, that poses a problem for air travelers as well as a problem for the air companies themselves. Airline companies are now stating it's time for Democrats and Republicans to get back to opening up the government and accept the CR, the continuing resolution, to make things palpable and palatable for the American people.
Yeah, it's being felt more and more each day and affecting more people as the days pass. A federal judge has ordered the Trump administration, Kelly, to make full food stamp payments in November. This ruling comes after the administration said it would provide only partial food stamp benefits for November by using a SNAP contingency fund. The Department of Agriculture has said it simply doesn't have the money to make the full payments, Kelly.
Well, look, the money is $5.1 billion in a contingency fund. There might be more. And basically, the Department of Agriculture is saying that they can't tap into that because, according to Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins, those funds are for natural disasters. Well, what about man-made disasters? And clearly, this is a man-made disaster that has unfolded because of Democrats and Republicans not agreeing to actually continue with opening the government and having that continuing resolution. So what this judge is now doing, because there's the impasse between the legislative branch and the executive branch, the judicial branch is now stepping in saying, okay, both of you guys do something. Mr. President, open up those funds, take care of the 42 million people who will go throughout the month of October without food, or at least the ability to get to that food. And then there's the fact that of those 42 million people, at least 16 million people are children. So at some point, cooler heads have to prevail. Adults have to step into the room and actually start caring for the least of these. And you can look at it from a left perspective or a right perspective, but the middle of this is the fact that people are saying, we need these SNAP benefits in order to feed our families.
Yeah. Gabriel, let's bring you in and talk about the deadlock up on Capitol Hill. Historically speaking, how are you looking at this, and what could bring this to an end?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. And first, it's important to keep things in perspective. This is not the first time we have a shutdown, probably won't be the last. Recently, shutdowns have been more common when you have a Republican in the White House and Democrats and Congress, different degrees of control of the House. But that's what we have today. Because of the Senate, Democrats are able to kind of impose this deadlock and shut down, which is tragic. It's a terrible situation for many, many Americans. But I think, again, the big picture is the government. Since 2001, the federal government has been running year after year after year of deficits, and that's not sustainable. So what's the government trying to do right now is, well, let's cut down some spending, reduced spending, which is really, really hard. Even some Democrats agree we should spend less, but when you go through specifics, it becomes really, really hard to negotiate and find a common ground. And that's what's in Congress. Now, what happened as well is, as you see with the recent, just this past week, the elections, Democrats might have been benefiting from this shutdown electorally, because when you don't see your paychecks or your food stamps every month coming every month, what you might look at is for answers from the White House, not from Congress necessarily. So
yeah.
the main person you blame is probably Donald Trump in the White House.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not fully fair. So what you see is electorally for Democrats, it works. It maybe pays off, but of course it's tragic for the country.
Let's shift gears and talk about the drug boat strikes in the Caribbean. The U.S. has conducted its 17th lethal strike, killing at least 3 alleged drug smugglers on board. That's at least 70 alleged drug smugglers who now have been killed in these strikes since the beginning of September. Democrats, they're trying to put a stop to the strikes and are asking for more information on how they're being done. Kelly, it seems like the administration is full steam ahead here.
They are full steam ahead because the president wants to actually eliminate any threat of illegal drugs coming into the United States, most notably fentanyl and other drugs that can cause harm to the American people. And when you consider the scope and magnitude of fentanyl and the cause of death that it has caused for so many Americans, I mean, it's astronomical, the number. And so the president is trying to do that he can, and the Democrats are questioning it, and even some Republicans now are saying, Mr. President, you're going too far. This is really an drug interdiction to be done by law enforcement, which would be the Coast Guard. But be that as it may, there is a whole new shift to the Western Hemisphere, and that's dealing with the drug paraphernalia that's coming to this country.
Gabriel, critics say that the strikes violate international and U.S. law by killing these alleged drug smugglers on the high seas. Are there some international red lines being crossed here?
Maybe that's a good debate. I think, broadly speaking, those are not traditional soldiers. It's not clear whether they should be labeled terrorists, even though those organizations have been officially designated as terrorist organizations by the U.S. government. It's not clear whether those people on those boats bringing drugs into the U.S. are actually terrorists in the traditional sense, classical sense. And also, it is justifiable if it's considered self-defense. I'm not sure that's the case here with the drug boats as well. The U.S. has a very strong case for going after those organizations who are bringing drugs, usually, again, by the sea to the U.S., but they are not necessarily armed. They're not necessarily coming to the U.S. to attack the U.S. government or institutions. So it's debatable, and the U.S. will probably have to face some, at least some repercussions or some criticism by the international community if they keep doing that.
Yeah. All right, Kelly and Gabriel, we're out of time for tonight, but thank you both for joining us. Have a great weekend. Turning overseas, hundreds paid their respects to an Israeli-American hostage whose remains were recently handed over by Hamas as part of the Gaza ceasefire deal. Captain Omar Nutra was 21 years old when Hamas murdered him on October 7, 2023, and took his body to Gaza. The terror group returned his remains Sunday, along with the bodies of 2 other soldiers who were killed during the massacre.
Today, we finally have a place to be with you, a place to talk to you, a place to love you, even when you're no longer here.
And the bodies of 6 hostages remain in Gaza. More are expected to be returned to their families in the coming days. Protecting the flock, a wave of violent attacks prompting new security measures at churches. We take a look next. Well, America has seen a deadly surge in violence against churches this year. Places once considered safe for worship are too often becoming targets. In response to this dangerous trend, more church leaders are stepping up their security. CBN's Paul Petit reports.
In Decatur, Arkansas, New Wine Ministry celebrates the Feast of Tabernacles, while 2 Vietnam veterans patrol the area outside.
That kind of an event will draw people that are curious and perhaps have some type of ulterior thing that they want to do to cause trouble.
Having security personnel is important to Pastor Vincent Xavier.
We don't want to walk in fear. We don't want to walk in, a fleshly or carnal way. But at the same time, we want to be careful and cautious because there are people and their lives matter, and they deserve to be having the right to fellowship where they can be at peace and not being worried about somebody coming in and doing some really horrible things, which we see everywhere.
It includes this attack in Michigan from September, when a man set a Mormon church on fire after killing 4 people and injuring 8 others. In August, 2 children were gunned down during a Catholic mass at a church in Minneapolis. A month before, 2 women were shot to death during a Baptist church service in Kentucky.
A lot of churches are starting to see that they better step up because rules have changed. It's a whole different game now, and the game is not something you can shy away from.
That's why the United States Concealed Carry Association is offering specific safety training in Arkansas and across the country.
It's called Protecting Your House of Worship. The purpose of the class is to help church safety teams start with a base to form an emergency operation plan for their church.
The group has held more than 600 events nationwide and trained more than 12,000 individuals since May. The training includes identifying threats, stopping an active shooter, and performing medical care when needed.
Well, the first thing we're going to start is the unique challenges that houses of worship face. I mean, they're different than a school or a business because one of the things we have to do as a church, we want to be welcoming. So it makes it hard for security and protecting the interior of the church.
Ron talks about the growing trend of hate-filled voices seeking immediate notoriety over the air and online.
If you build a huge audience with millions of followers, that takes a lot of hard work. You know how you can become famous very quickly? Become an active shooter.
The USCCA is joined by other organizations in offering church safety training. They include the State Highway Patrol in Missouri, the Wayne County Sheriff's Office in Michigan, and the Allentown Diocese held classes for priests and parish leaders in Pennsylvania.
I'd rather be prepared and nothing happen than something happen and not be prepared.
John Arnold is pastor of First Presbyterian Church in Rogers, Arkansas.
I like the fact that in this class they kind of had a rubric of categories of things you needed to be prepared for. And so I think for us the next step is to look at each one of those and find out how much we do or don't have as preparedness.
Pastor Arnold was invited by church member Laura Ruoff, who has a concealed carry permit.
Do you carry with you in church?
I carry. I'm heavy always.
Laura is also a certified self-defense instructor who explains the empowerment that can come with training like this.
I definitely won't be running. I feel like I would be very willing to engage because I have some skills So I have that confidence and that training, and I'm okay with being one to maybe step up and help protect.
Helping to protect is the goal of each safety training class, and unfortunately, a sad but important new normal for places of worship.
So we pray, we believe, but we also prepare.
In Decatur, Arkansas, Paul Petit, CBN News.
A beloved children's classic celebrates 75 years, exploring the legacy of C.S. Lewis and The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Next on Faith Nation. Well, this year marks the 75th anniversary of a modern Christian classic. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis was published in 1950, and to this day it's beloved by young and old alike as the story continues to reach new audiences. From the beloved book to various stage adaptations to the big screen, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is one of our culture's most well-known stories. The classic takes place in World War II England. Siblings Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lucy are sent from their home in London to live with a family friend in the country. It's there they discover the wardrobe that transports them into the magical land of Narnia.
I've had the honor of teaching college students for almost 20 years now.
Professor Christina Crenshaw of Arizona Christian University teaches a course on the book's renowned author, C.S. Lewis.
He would tell these biblical allegories through his science fiction, because he has, a whole history of science fiction. He's got this whole history of course, Narnia, and it would invite children into a world where they could see goodness and truth and get to know God as the creator in a way that I think lasts for generations.
The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is one of 7 books in the Narnia series. When the siblings enter this magical land, they're faced with good and evil. Edmund, tempted by the evil White Witch, is taken away, only to be saved by Aslan, the Christ-like figure in the story.
At face value, it's sort of like escape into the fantastic and the fantastical. But really, as kids start to engage the story, they realize this is spiritually forming me to rightly align my affections with what's good and what's true and what's beautiful. And I think it also highlights our human sinful nature as well. We see that the characters in the book, they're not flawless. They're not without their sins and their sin issues, but the overarching theme is redemption. It is a savior who comes back to redeem and restore and to take back that which has been captive by the enemy.
Publisher HarperCollins is celebrating the 75th anniversary with a major marketing campaign, special events at bookstores, and republishing of the Narnia series with new cover art. At Washington's Museum of the Bible, the story recently came to life on stage.
It's been so well received. It's been just wonderful.
President of the production company Logos Theater, Noah Stratton, says they plan to produce all 7 stories in the series.
Kids love it and think it's great, but then you have adults who are loving it. You have grandparents, and people always will ask us, like, well, what's the best age range to come and see this? And I always say, well, it's like the old Christmas song, kids 1 to 92. Everybody enjoys this because there is a beautiful simplicity while still having so many layers of truth.
The museum is also celebrating Lewis with an exhibit, The Myth That Became Fact. We spoke with curator Wes Viner, who points out Lewis was an atheist before turning to Christ.
One of his objections to Christianity was that it looked very much like all of this pagan mythology that he, as a scholar, studied and loved. And he thought the story of Jesus looked very much like this. He came over time to believe that maybe Christianity did not resemble those things because it was false. Maybe those things resembled Christianity because it was true.
One of the people who helped to change his mind was J.R.R. Tolkien, author of the Lord of the Rings series.
He converts to Christianity, and for another decade after that, he's still just an anonymous English literature professor working and teaching students over in England. He doesn't really rise to fame until in the midst of World War II. A producer for BBC Radio read his book, The Problem of Pain, and asked him to come give a series of radio broadcasts on the Christian faith in this very dark time. World War II, Germany is advancing, the whole world feels as if it's collapsing. And it was those radio broadcasts, which were later adapted into the book Mere Christianity, that really launched Lewis to international fame. He became this sort of spokesperson for the Christian faith, and then soon after, this famous fiction author as well.
Yeah, and his legacy endures, and all of his books, including the Narnia series. You can learn more about the Museum of the Bible's exhibit on C.S. Lewis's journey to faith. Just go to cbnnews.com for more information. And still ahead, a fuzzy forecaster predicts the weather in North Carolina. Finally tonight, a unique weather forecaster is the main attraction at this North Carolina festival. You've probably heard of the weather forecasting groundhog, but the town of Banner Elk, North Carolina is looking to a smaller creature for seasonal insight, a worm. It's part of an annual event called the Woolly Worm Festival. More than 20,000 people gather to watch the fuzzy creatures race, and the winner gets a $1,000 prize and gives a weather prediction. The winning worm's stripes are used to predict how many weeks of winter there will be. A guess the event chairwoman says is typically pretty accurate.
I'm coming for Phil because our accuracy rate on winter forecasting is around the 86%.
Pretty good. Well, this year's winner predicted a cold and snowy start to the winter season with 4 weeks of mild temperatures before returning to snow and cold. And that's going to do it for Faith Nation tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you back here on Monday.